There are 9 properties that hit the market today, 9 income producing properties that hit the market today that we're gonna check out right now. That being said, guys, happy Monday. Today, interest rates are still flirting around 6.37%. If you could see right now, we also changed the layout to the videos, right? So it makes a little bit more sense, and you guys could kind of follow along and see kind of like the pace of the program, the way that we're going to look at things. We're going to check off first that there's a 1%, if the property meets 1%, and if it does, then we'll go through the rest of the metrics and see if the property really does make sense, and it's what we can do to make it make sense, right? In terms of what you can negotiate, ideas like that. So with that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and just check it out. It's like I'm rusty or something. Like I haven't done this in a while. It's just the layout that's got me like messed up in my head, I think. All right. Well, what I always like to do is I like to show you guys the mortgage rates here, right? And so we're looking at the 30-year fixed rate mortgage average in the United States. Here, let me show it to you where it makes a little bit more sense. And so this is for the last year, starting since last year, April 10th. You can see it was above 6.62. It goes all the way to almost a 7, right? And then it kept going down until February 26th. It went below 6%. And then after that, the thing with Iran started, and it's just been going up. And then lately, this last week, we got reports that actually interest rates fell. On Thursday, we will get another update. We'll find out if the interest rates fell again or where they are at. But for the time being, what we will use for all of our analysis is the current, average, and that's 6.37. Again, that's for a fixed rate mortgage, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. All right. All right. So the other thing that we got to look at, right, and this is just so you guys have in the back of your head, we're looking at South Florida. That's Miami, Broward, and West Palm Beach, and we want to know what the market is at least looking like. Now, remember, real estate is hyper-local. Hyper-local means that the market from, this, like where we're standing at, right, to like 30 meters down the road could be completely different. It could be a different neighborhood. You could cross a bridge, you could cross a highway, you could cross different things, and all of a sudden dynamics change, neighborhoods change, different zip codes, different counties, whatever the case might be, different cities, and each one is going to be different and is going to have different demand. However, the overall feel, right, and what we're going to look into right now, sorry, I'm kind of like messing around, is the actual market watch. And so what I want to show you guys is how many properties have hit the market in the last 7 days, and that's 2,166 homes have hit the market in the last 7 days. And in the same period of time, we have seen 2,196 price decreases. And what does that tell you guys? It tells you that for every single house that's coming onto the market, every single seller that's like, hey, I'm thinking about selling my house, let's put it on the market, and they actually go onto the market. There's also another seller that's having this conversation with a real estate agent saying like, dude, it's not working out. Like, we're not getting the offers. We're not even getting the showings. What do we do? And it's like, hey, like, we have awesome pictures. We did this, we did that. There's only one thing left to do, and that's only one lever to pull left, and that's the price. And you're seeing basically the same amount of people that are deciding to list it actually calling their agent and saying, let's lower the price. And what does that tell you guys? That should tell you that the probability of somebody listing a price right now or house for sale right now, the probability of them actually agreeing to lower their price when you present an offer is pretty damn high, right? Where if you compare this where like 2020, 2021, right? It was almost inverted. You see this thing that says price increase and this one that says price decrease. These bars were basically freaking inverted, okay? And so that's the reason that we look at this just so we have an idea of how the market's sitting, right? As a whole. Now, that being said, let's look at the deals that came out today. There are 9 properties that hit the market, and we're going to be analyzing them at the same time, right? So there's no fluff here. It's just straight up analyzing them and seeing what we get. All right, so I like to sort them out this way. So you can see the 9 different properties here, okay? Let's sort first by price per, just the overall list price. All right, so there's a $6 million duplex. I believe these people are probably smoking some good ganja because $6 million is just ridiculous. There's another $5.5 million duplex. There's a $1.8 million fourplex, and then another $1 million duplex, $750,000 duplex, basically $660,000 duplex. Another one, a $500,000 duplex, and a $445,000 duplex. So you guys could see here that there's just this huge amount of inventory hitting the market. And excuse me just 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Somebody's knocking on the door. That's what happens when you do lives. Sorry, guys. Somebody was knocking on the door. Had to answer that. All right. So where were we? Yeah, there's all these prices are like crazy through the roof. And I'll just give you guys a general indication. In all the years I've been doing this, I've never found a real good deal that's that goes anywhere north of like $400. So like 400, like the 400 to 450, even 450, 500, it's worth looking at because you could reduce the price, you could make things work. Maybe they're not listing the things correctly, but usually anything above like 500, like $400, like $450 is just not going to make sense at the end of the day. We'll still take a look at them just because you never know. And dude, it's fun. Why not? Like I like analyzing properties. So like, I like to see what craziness this guy listing a $6 million duplex. I mean, this better be like in a high rise or something. I don't know. Let's take a look at the pictures, guys, because he's saying that for $6 million, all you get in cash flow is $2,300. Hopefully the guy added an extra zero to this thing. Hopefully, but he might have, yeah. All right, let's check out the pictures, guys. Okay, so I don't think that this is a duplex. I think he might be trying to sell all of this. And he's considering this 2 buildings. Yikes. Okay. So this is a commercial asset. Let's go back here. There's other commercial assets in the area, right? And now where would you rather live? In this building, or these buildings? Right? They probably have amenities. They probably have amenities. I don't know what that is, but they probably don't have amenities. All right? Yeah, there's probably a pool here in the middle. There's a pool here. All right? There's probably a pool there, up there. No pool. So you already know what kind of asset you're in. You're B going down. Look how far the city is, guys. So you're pretty far away from the water. Okay. So yeah, it's the whole bit. And this might be the best unit, right? Because they're going to put their best foot forward. They're going to show us their nicest unit out of all of them. So it's interesting. Let's take a look at the actual deal itself. Because even though we only in this deal, in this channel, all we really do is we really look into residential multifamily. That's 2 to 4 units, guys. That's the way that, if you want to really get it started in investing. I know Grant Cardone says, dude, just buy 100 units. Actually, he says buy 32 units. Ken McElroy says that he doesn't look at anything less than 150 units, right? There's a great great podcast between the two that just came out. Fantastic. Definitely go watch it. But, I've been doing real estate, property management for 20 years now, and sales, right? And you could go that route, but you're going to learn really tough lessons. And maybe I'm out of place, man, but you really got to learn one step at a time. And I could point to other billionaires that have tried it the way that Grant Cardone says to try it, which is just like, hey, just invest in something that's huge and you'll figure it out. But the problem here, guys, with me at least, is that I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to control my investments, right? What's nice about Robinhood and why it became popular, right, as an investment app, is that you could just go in and you could move around your investments. You don't have to call the stockbroker. You don't have to do this. You don't have to go through all this hassle. You don't have to do that. And when you lock in with a real estate investment trust, a REIT, all of a sudden what you're doing is, or you do a syndication, right? You're going to have a number of partners. And so you might think that you're investing a lot of money because you're investing 150, 200, even $1 million. But in reality, you're a bucket. You're a drop in the bucket. right? Maybe a couple of drops in the bucket, but that's about it. And what I like about starting small is that you really get control of your asset, right? You really get control of your asset for good and for bad, right? But you learn it along the way. And the mistakes that you could make, like maybe not doing correct tenant evaluations, or not doing preventative maintenance and just being reactionary to the problems that your property might have, those mistakes are going to cost you a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s at a time, and you'll feel them and it'll hurt. But if you invest all your money, and then you have terrible tenant screening process, right? And now you have this whole building, right? Like 12, whatever, 15, 32 units full of tenants that are not going to pay you and that they're going to be difficult to evict. Well, you're going to lose all your money, and it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I like starting small, and that's what we do on this channel, because that's where you really learn the lessons, the ABCs, so that you could go on and become a successful investor, right? And it might not be for you, and that's where you'll learn if it's not for you. In grade school, rather than just spending tons of money on an advanced education, because that's what a lot of these folks offer, really advanced education, when you're not even figuring it out yet, right? So it's don't go to college, right? Don't go to these colleges if you haven't even tried out, right? The small stuff. And that's what I'm trying to teach you guys. That's what I'm like trying to pass 20 years of real estate experience down to you guys in this channel. And so yeah, sometimes I'll go off course and we'll talk about property management, but it's important. It's important. And yeah, with this deal, again, this is not the purpose of the channel, but dude, it's real estate, so might as well analyze it if it's in front of us. So that being said, let's look at the guts of this. Obviously, it's not for the MLS. It's 14 townhome unit, all right? Just blocks away, they say, from FIU. That's not a if the location is accurate, it's not a terrible location. You're next to student housing, but now it is considered student housing, which could also be a bit volatile, right? You'll have people coming in and out. Students, they don't care for your real estate, yeah, I did student property management for more years than I care to have done, and what I know is that students just generally do not care for your product. You could renovate it, and the next day they'll just turn in a piece of Swiss cheese, and good luck collecting from their parents. All right, so all units are 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath with approximately 1,120 square feet each. Feature major recent capital improvements, including new roofs, windows, doors, fencing, offering a large turnkey investment. Highly desirable FIU adjacent location with strong, consistent rental demand. 2-story townhome, yeah, consistent rental demand, but also consistent turnover, right? Remember, as students, you usually don't stay where you're at for more than like a year or two. Very rare is a student that just stays all 4 years in the same apartment. 2-story townhome layouts with living area downstairs and bedroom upstairs. Excellent tenant appeal. Convenient access to Southwest 8th Street Turnpike. 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath units. Historically rent between $2,300 to $2,500 a month. Strong long-term rental demand, again, because of FIU. And so they say that it's 2 ones, and they go for about $2,300 unfurnished, and that they are leased. All right, guys. So let's just do a quick rental analysis of this, and they say that it's 14 townhomes. Okay, well, we're just gonna put here 0, 0, 0, 0 to start off, right? And what are we gonna do? We're gonna say that the rent is equal to 14 times 2,300. Oops, 2,300. And that gives us a rent of an annual rental, a monthly rental revenue of $32,000 a month. However, I haven't put in the price here yet. The price that they're asking for is $6,100,000 basically. Okay. Taxes, I think they were saying it was like $60,000 a year in taxes. Okay, and we're at 6.37% interest rate, right? Square feet wise, I mean, 15,680 square feet. All right, guys. So that's where we're currently at with this deal. And so remember, what we always look at first, guys, is it's the 1% rule. It's our first filter that we always use to just have a rough idea of how good this deal is. And you don't have to do like crazy math, right? To know that 1% of 6 million is 60,000, right? Like just move the decimal over. Remember 1, 2, and you're left with, well, actually 61,000, right? 61,000 because it's 6.1 million. And so, guys, what's 32,000 divided by 61,000? It's basically 50%, right? 53, it's just a little bit more, it's 53%. And so we know that right off the bat, like this is going to be a terrible deal. Like this is just like next, right? See you later. Even if, right, he says that it could be as much as $2,500. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they could all rent out for $2,500, right? It doesn't change much, right? At best, this property, the current rent, if you gave a 25% down payment, meaning a down payment of like 1.25 million or something like that, right? Like what's a 25% down payment? 1.5 million, right? I'm not a math whiz, but 1.5 million is only going to pay for about 94% of the mortgage. 94%. Like you're going to have to come out with 6% of that mortgage. That mortgage is a big boy mortgage, man. Not comfortable with that, right? Median rents, mind you, let's do a rent check in the area. Yeah, they're for $2,300. So the guy's accurate. He's done his math. Median rents are $2,300. Could he get $2,500 for it? I don't know. It depends again on the product. Because if you're a student and you're going to be throwing down $1,250 per month, right? Because you're probably going to be sharing this with somebody else. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So each student's going to pay like $1,250. Dude, like you don't think that you could get a better apartment, right? For $2,500 with a pool where you could invite your friends over? Yeah, you probably could. But anyway, maybe you can. So anyway, but it does check out in the rent check. So like it checks that out, checks that box off. What's the return on investment the way it currently sits? Dude, like it's terrible. You might as well just, I mean, if you have this kind of money, $1.2 million, just throw it in the S&P 500. You'll have a way better life, guaranteed. Okay? So, all right, with that being said, we're not going to go through the rest of the metrics of this property. This deal sucks. And it sucks so bad that, actually getting this guy to lower his price down to where it would make sense, you'd have to shave off a couple of $1 million. And I don't see this guy actually doing that. And so for that reason, we're going to scrap this $6 million illegally listed commercial multifamily home or property. Discard that. Next up, we're looking at a property in Coconut Grove. All right, let's see what it is. It's whoops. Let's go here. So let's put the numbers in, guys. $5.5 million. All right, currently paying $55,000 a year in taxes. Okay, square feet wise, 6,000 square feet. Okay, and they said they're collecting $32,000 a month in rent. So they're collecting the same amount a month in rent than the other guy is, but they want, just $500,000 less. Let's take a look at the property. Okay, so this is more modern build. Okay. Huge. I mean, this is really big. This is nice. It's got a pool in the back, I think. Right? Yeah, it's a pool. So what do you guys think already, right? Like, they're saying it's a duplex, 6,000 square feet. If it's a duplex, 6,000 square feet, that means that each side is basically selling for 2.75. Whoa, what do you think about that? $2.75 million. I see like people don't think like this might look nice, guys. You know what I think? Moisture and crevices. Not a good combination. Moisture, crevices, and wood. Not the best combination, but never know. This is better. So yeah. All right. This is nice. It looks nice. Yeah, it's in a good area. All right. Let's look at the guts of this. Let's see what this guy says. Discover yada yada yada, consisting of 2 5-bedroom, 5.5-bath modern townhome units. So it's basically 2 single-family homes that are adjoined. And that they want to sell each for $2.75 million. Guys, even if you rent these out, right, it just makes no sense. It's another property that is just terrible. It's the same thing as the other one. This one would actually be able to pay the mortgage, but just about 100% of the mortgage, right? It wouldn't, how do I put it? DSCR means debt service coverage ratio, right? And so it means how much of the mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, do the rents pay for? And so if you rent it out for $32,000 a month total, right, you would be able to pay off your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. But that for banks is a really big red flag. And that's because the day that you have vacancy, you're not going to be collecting rent, and now you're going to have to pay out of pocket for that part of the mortgage, right? Which would all of a sudden go to 50%. You probably won't have enough money left over to adequately save for repairs and maintenance, which is another 5%. And you probably wouldn't have the cash left over to save for capital expenditures, which is basically like long-term reserves for replacement of roof, ACs, plumbing systems, etc. And in this case, you don't have to worry about like crazy fire systems, but exotic fire systems. But yeah, the point is, it doesn't make enough. Banks want to see at least 1.1, and most like to see like 1.25. So for that reason, like that's another big fail for us. The rent, I mean, like guys, I don't have this kind of like stuff in the rents, right? Because usually the stuff that we look at, they're combinations of these type of unit models, and those are the ones that are going to make you the best amount of money. Again, this is not going to make any kind of sense, so it doesn't check off on the rents either. And plus, they don't give us leases. It's not like they're actually rented. This one says that it's rented on a month to month, right? But again, is there a lease attached here? No, there's no leases attached here, so there's no way to believe him. And even if they were both rented at the highest price, you're better off, again, just investing in the S&P 500 and not having these headaches. So for that reason, this property is also a big discard. All right, guys, I'm going to start going a little faster through these. All right, so now we're all the way down to just $1.8 million, which is still a lot of money but this is the fourplex, guys. All right, they're saying that they're currently paying $10,976 a year in taxes. Square foot, it's not that big, 1,871 square feet. Hopefully it's per side. Let's take a look. They don't tell us how much rent they're collecting or what flood zone it's at. Let's look at the pictures. Okay, this is the property that we actually analyzed yesterday. It was the only property that came up yesterday. And if you guys want to see that analysis, just check out yesterday's video. This property didn't make sense, although it was very interesting, and I wasn't able to get a hold of the owner today. But it's something that's really interesting just because I think that he's in financial trouble. And so you might be able to score a discount on this property. And if you could actually get the price low enough and finish the project, and there's not a lot of hurdles left to actually finish the project, it could make a lot of sense. But again, we reviewed it in yesterday's video, so check that out. We'll discard it for today's video. All right, that being said, next up, it's a $935,000 duplex in Miami-Dade. They're currently paying $12,152 a year in taxes. How big is it? 1,959 square feet. Okay. And they say that they are collecting $7,750 a month in rent. And right off the bat, guys, what do you guys think this fits in the 1% rule? It's not that bad. All right. So this deal is promising. It passes our first test. Can it make 1% of the rent? Not 100%. It makes 0.83%, not 1%. But dude, it's not bad. If you could change a couple of things, all of a sudden this property might be closer to a 0.9 or a 1%. And what's really nice is that at this rate, right, if we could actually prove these rents, a bank would lend us money to buy this. Okay, so let's continue to check out this property. Sorry guys, let me plug something in here. Let's continue to check this deal out. All right, so what's next? Let's click on pictures. Okay, so this roof is older. You can see that it already has a couple patches here, a couple patches there. You're gonna have to replace that roof. You're looking at another 20 to 30K for that. Yeah, not a fan of the artificial turf here, but What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments. So it's close to the airport. All right. They don't really show us much. What we want to see is the inside of the property. That's where people actually live. They don't live outside like animals. So let's look at the guts of this deal. See if there's anything else that's worth looking at in here. They say it's a turnkey income-producing duplex with flex space on a quiet cul-de-sac. Yada yada yada. Each unit has its own laundry hookup, 3+ dedicated parking spaces. All 3 units are currently leased, producing $7,750 a month in gross rent with established rental history, property cash flows from day one. We'll see about that. The roof was done in 2010. Looks older than that. Maybe they did a patch in 2010. The property sits in flood zone X, connected to city sewer. Location is everything here. Just 1 block from blah, 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 blah. All right. So they say that this has 3 units. But before we look at the unit count and we verify the rents, guys, let's do one thing. Let's verify this is actually a duplex. Miami realtors are notorious for mislisting things. And that's exactly what I freaking thought. This is not a duplex. This is a single family home that they have manipulated into being a triplex, apparently. Yeah, this is 1 unit built in 1949, okay? It's actually bigger than, 1,959 square feet. But yeah, this is not, you would never be able to get an FHA loan on this. And that's why he doesn't put it here, right? You could just do cash and conventional. That is accurate. And yeah, guys, like this is not what we do. So we don't look at properties that are being hacked. This is like a total hack. And yeah, not in the best of ways. Like I don't really like analyzing this, because the day that you want to do a refinance, right, based on your rent, if you want to pull a debt service coverage ratio kind of a loan, like an investment loan, you're not going to be able to, right? You're not going to be able to do that because these rents just won't be able to support, because it's not set up to be a multifamily property. So for that reason, guys, I mean, even though this could make sense, right? If it's actually leased out, we're not going to be looking at it just because it's illegal. It's an illegal triplex. So we're going to go ahead and discard it for now. All right, next up, it's a $760,000 duplex in Miami-Dade County. They're currently paying $8,311 a year in taxes. Square feet, it's on the big side, 2,830 square feet, okay? And do they say how much they're collecting in rent? They don't tell us, okay? So we're gonna have to figure that out. It's in flood zone AE, which also means that you're gonna pay a little bit of a premium in flood insurance. Let's take a look at these pictures. Okay, so it's derelict. This property looks like crap, okay? And that's all they included. Great. So they included, I guess, some plans for what they would be building out here. Let's look at the guts of this deal, see what this guy says. Exceptional redevelopment opportunity in the rapidly growing Alapata submarket. The duplex zone property is being repositioned into a modern income-producing residential asset with approved plans expected by the end of April, offering buyers a near shovel-ready project. Okay, so this is a terrible deal. I feel it coming. All right, so they say it's a 4-2 and a 3-2. Let's suppose that like everything is set. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Let's check out the rents, guys, because they're not telling us anything. A 3-2, a median in Miami, rents for $3,000 a month. A 4-2, right, would maybe get you another. I mean, the benefit of having an additional bedroom when it goes from like a 2-1 to like a 2-2 is, well, sorry, when you go from like a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, that added utility that the extra bedroom has is pretty big, right? Even if you go have a 1-1, now you go to a 2-1, that difference of bedroom, that additional bedroom is going to have a bigger marginal utility. So you're going to get more rent in proportion to like where you're getting. When you go past 3 bedrooms, that like marginal utility that you get in adding bedrooms starts to decrease. So yes, you're gonna get more, but it's not gonna be a whole lot more. So I think that maybe for a 4.2, you get like 3,200, 3,250 at best, right? And that would put you at $6,250 in terms of actually um, receiving rent. And that would make the deal, palatable. But the problem here is that they are selling you this, right? They're just selling you the plans near shovel ready, right? So let's continue reading. This existing structure is fully gutted, and the project is designed to deliver a near new construction project with all systems, layouts, and finishes. Ideal for investors, builders, or end users looking to create value in high demand rental corridor, centrally located, easy access to Wynwood, da 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 da. So they want you to come in as an investor on their construction project. That's how this, don't think of this as like, hey, you're buying like pre-sale, right? Like a pre-sale condo, right? Like, I mean, it's the same thing actually, right? You're actually financing the construction of this property, right? And the problem with that is that the actual contract to purchase this will probably be fraught or full of disclosures and disclaimers of like, you know what, we're building this. And if we get delayed, what happens, right? If you put a 25% down payment for this, you're going to be putting down a chunk of change, right? You're actually, to be specific, you're going to be putting down $190,000, okay? Now, do you want to put down $190,000 and see how the construction turns out? I don't. I want to start making money on day one. And so for that reason, guys, this property for me is just, it's too many red flags in terms of like, what their actual construction schedule will look like, how they will use your money, when the property will be turned in. And you might tell me, hey, Andres, but it's a great property because if you invest now, right, you're going to be able to get the benefit of like later on, it might sell it for $1 million. Who cares? Who cares? Because at the end of the day, we're in it to make money on day one. And if this deal doesn't pan out when they do finally, finish remodeling it or whatever, or building it out, then it's a pass for us. But we're not going to come in here and finance their project. And if we are, we're going to want a big freaking discount, dude. Like for me to actually buy something like this, like I want surety, right? If the property, like, think about it this way. Banks won't lend you money unless the DSCR looks like 125. But if you're actually going to tell me that you're going to build something out and that's not making money yet, right? Like I'm going to want a lot more surety than that. These projected rents would need to give me like 150. So you would need to give me this property for 550 probably. Let me see. Yeah. If you sold it to me for 550 and I could verify that I could get these rents and I could verify that like, hey, like it's good to go, like, and like you're gonna build this like really cheap and you give me guarantees and I could leave the money like in the bank in case that you're not like meeting these deadlines, I could just pull my money. Maybe I'd lend you the money. Maybe I'd go through with some sort of like deal. But otherwise, like this is way too advanced. I'm not in the construction business. So like, again, I don't have that skill set. So I would just pull out. Like this deal makes no sense. So another property to discard for today. Okay, next up, more reasonable price range, guys. Again, like I said, now we're below the 400 price range, $400 per square foot range. So it's starting to make a whole lot more sense. All right, we're gonna take a look at this one. It's $659,000, right? Currently, they're paying $11,273 a year in taxes. Square feet, 1,664. It's not very big, okay? But let's see these pictures and see what's going on. Okay, so is it these two buildings? Interesting. Jonathan Rubio. I almost feel like I know that guy. Okay. So it's not like, super ready, but it's in good condition. Like, there's a C+/B asset for quality finish. The paint is terrible. The shower, you can tell, is this really old tile. That's why they closed it, so you don't see it. Old tile. But it looks well maintained, right? Some pressure washing, some sealing. Yeah, so it needs a little bit of TLC, but it doesn't look terrible. Let's see the guts of this deal, see what's going on. They say it's a duplex 221s. Okay, this well-maintained multifamily property generates, there we go, 4,250. 4,250 in gross rental income. Okay, so it's a 2-1 making $2,000 a month, and it's another 2-1 making $2,250. Okay, the $2,000 one has a lease end, right? So like the lease is ending, and then this other one making $2,250 is a month to month. The problem with month to month is going to be that it's not guaranteed, and usually month to month you're going to charge more for it. So as a landlord, you don't want to deal with not knowing if your tenant's going to be paying rent next month, right? Like, because then if you are keeping up with your books and your finances, it's nice to know that you're going to have rent for the predictable next 12 months, right? When you're on a month to month, now you have that huge uncertainty of if your tenant's going to renew for the next month. And so usually landlords, in order to, make up for that risk, they'll charge you more. So these rents of $2,250 are probably inflated, and that's why the long-term rents are probably just $2,000. We are always looking at this for long-term rents, guys. Because again, we want less risk. Otherwise, we might as well just call this an Airbnb and say $3,000 a month, right? But Airbnbs right now are in trouble. And there's a lot of people in trouble, and that's why there's a lot of inventory for multifamilies on the market, and they're all like semi-renovated because all these people thought like, I'm gonna Airbnb this out, and they put all this money in, now it doesn't make sense, and now they're selling it. So anyway, $2,000, that's what the rent check actually is. So we went from the 1% rule, which is not making sense. It's not making sense with the SCR. The rents for 2-1s, it does make sense for you to be able to get more money for these, to be honest. But actually it's in Oakland Park, so it's in Broward County. All right, so yeah, the rent check for this would be $1,960. So that's where we're at, guys. We're actually at $1,960. Whoops, here we go. Oh, what happened to the rent checks? Apologize for that, guys. There we go. So let me see if you guys are able to see it. Yeah, so it went all over the place. So the rent checks are there, $1,960, right? And so that's what we have here. It's $4,000 at best. And at $4,000, this deal also doesn't make sense. And so the rents do make sense, but again, now it doesn't make sense when you compare it to the S&P. You might as well just invest in that and call it a day. And so for that reason, we're going to go ahead, we're going to discard this property, and we're going to keep it moving. All right, next property, guys. Oh, whoops. Next property. The purchase price, $650,000. Taxes are at $9,552 a year. Square feet, it's 2,544 square feet. They don't tell us how much the rents are collecting, but they do tell us it's in flood zone X, which is a good flood zone to be in. Okay, look at the pictures. So this product is renovated. I'm not a super huge fan of the floors, but I don't hate them either. They're very passable. Terrible pictures, but that's what you get when you take pictures with your freaking iPhone. Not talking crowd about iPhones, but you want to, if you're going to be selling this property and getting the commission for this property, if they're selling it at 3%, is like what? Can you guys help me out here? It's like $18,000 or something, 19,000, close to 20. So you think that for $20,000 you could spend $400 on some professional pictures? I do. All right, the bathroom looks nice. Cool. All right, so product looks pretty good. It's a duplex. Let's see what they tell us. They say it's an investor opportunity, fully renovated, income producing duplex offering immediate cash flow. Each unit is a spacious 2-bedroom, 1-bath layout with strong rental demand, yada, yada, yada. Front unit pays $2,400 and back unit $2,700. So they said they were making $2,400 on this one and $2,700 on the other one. And that would make this property not terrible, right? But before we move any further, let's check these rents and make sure that they're not BSing us. Okay? Let me make this smaller for you guys. All right. So we know that it is in Miami-Dade County, right? It's 221s. And so they said one of the 2 ones runs for $2,700 or $2,300. Well, we know that the median in Miami is $2,300. They're saying that they're collecting $2,400 and $2,700. That is possible, okay? So on the rent check, yeah, it could check out. Of course, we want to verify these with long-term leases and to also do our market study of the area to make sure that once those leases are up, we're going to be able to actually retain that rent in the long term. And it's not just going to be a one-time sweetheart deal for us. But, you know, let's continue with the analysis of this property. And the next up for us is, does it actually, at this price, offer us a good return on our investment? And the answer is barely, right? If we are able to rent these suckers out, right? And we put a 10% down payment on it, that's going to give us our best return on our investment over the long run. And that's going to be of 10%, okay? That's no bueno, guys. That's, you might as well, why deal with all the headaches if you're going to get the same return as the S&P 500? Now, this is the first property that we're, I think, pretty close to like where we want to be with, you know, rents that are, you know, that they check out. And so for that reason, I'll say the following, right? There's some variables here. Number one, why can't you get $2,700 on the first one, right? Because if you can get $2,700 on the first one too, all of a sudden the deal could make a little bit more sense. Okay, it can make a little bit more sense. Now, that being said, what if, right? This property just hit the market. What if we could get this guy to drop the price down to 600? I don't think that that's, you know, unreasonable. You're at 600, all of a sudden the deal started to look a little bit better, guys. Now keep in mind, your taxes will go up, right? And what you could tell this guy is like, I mean, at that point, right, we're at a 0.9%, so it's looking good. So far, the deal would be looking really nice. If we get $2,700 for the first one too, we could lower the price about 8-9% there. Now, the next thing, and this is the big one, guys, interest rates just a couple months ago, right, about a month and a half ago, we're at 5.98. Watch what happens to our return when we drop our interest rates, you know, by half a percent here. They go up an entire percent. Now, there are people out there like Grant Cardone that say that once this thing with Iran is over, we're going to see interest rates drop to 4.5%. And watch what happens to these freaking returns when we go to 4.5%, guys. Did you see that? Crazy, huh? Interest rates, I mean, once that interest rate drops by another like 1.5, your return on your investments just jumps. Now, at that point, obviously, this property makes all the sense in the world, right? But we're not there, right? So we got to be sensible about this and just be at 6.37 because that's where we're at. And I don't want to buy this property and then interest rates never come back down for like another 20 years. And now I'm losing money every month, or I'm kicking myself thinking I should just put it in the S&P. So that being said, guys, this is what it would look like. This property, if you bought it using 10%, even though that's going to give you the yield, the highest return over the 30 years, you wouldn't actually see money. And if you're, this, mind you, this is if you're saving money for repairs and maintenance, capital expenditures, and vacancy, right? If you're actually saving that money, you wouldn't see cash flow from this property, positive cash flow, for almost 4 years if you bought this using 10% down payment. Now, you could see cash flow on day one if you buy this using a 25% DSCR investment loan. And of course, if you buy cash, you'll see cash flow on day one. So it's not a terrible property. And for that reason, we're going to keep on analyzing it and see what the cash flow test, right? And our cash flow test, and this part of it, right? It's inconclusive. Again, if you actually are buying this using FHA, you're going to be losing cash, right? For, look at this. you're going to be losing cash for like 8 years, right? Yeah, like 8 years, 9 years. If you buy this using 10% down payment and you get rid of your PMI, that's that little increase there because you got rid of your PMI at that moment, right? You'd be probably just making cash flow after a little bit less than 4 years. Now, you would be making cash flow again with a 25% down payment and of course with cash, but there are properties that can do better. There are properties that can do better. And so that's basically what you would be paying right here, guys, every single month if you bought this FHA, right? For the first year, basically. By year 10, you're making money. By year 10, by year 10, you're making money on all of them. But that's not where we want to be. Now, again, watch what happens if interest rates drop to just where they were about a month ago. Okay, did you guys catch that? It changes a lot. And if they go down to what Grant Cardone thinks, which I don't think is unreasonable, all of a sudden it looks freaking amazing. You would only be paying about $40 a month to keep this property on year one. Probably by year two, you'd be making cash. Yeah, you'd be in the green, right? If you could refinance this to 4.5%, you'd be in the green after a year and a half. Okay, guys, but we're not there yet. And since we're not there yet, what we can look at is, will this property create wealth for you? Well, the answer is yes. So if you're, if what you're interested in is creating wealth in the long run, then yes, this property can pass the wealth test, right? Because the property, like, while it might not be putting cash in your pocket, it is growing in value. The property is going to be appreciating, right? Despite it actually taking money out of your pocket, the property is going to appreciate. The tenants and yourself will be paying off principal, okay? And the property can give you a certain tax advantage. So for that reason, this property can create wealth, and that's good. So I would say that overall, guys, this property is the way that it sits, where I think that you could actually, if you're only able to collect $2,400 on this one, right? It's a C property, well, and especially at $650,000 that he wants, 650. It's a C property, close to being a D property, but I think this has the potential all the way to be a B property, just because of the interest rates. But if you really want to just get this house and just play with today's interest rates, I would say that at most, this property is a C property, depending on how much you can negotiate this price. And that's exactly what I would do, guys. Just so you know, if you guys wanted to go ahead and negotiate with the seller, I would say, look, man, you told me yourself you could only get $2,400 for this one and $2,700 for that one. In order for me to even start thinking about getting a loan from the bank, I would need you to drop this all the way till this has 1.25, 600. I think at 600. Nope. I need you to drop this to let's say 590. Nope. $575. There you go. So hey, buddy, I need you to drop it to $575, and that way I could get a loan. And you could show him the numbers, guys, so you could convince the listing agent and the seller this way. Like, dude, like, your numbers are just, they don't make sense. I can't even get a loan for this. I want to buy it from you. I'm qualified to buy it from you, right? But with the rents, the way that you're saying in the market, this is the best. This is the best that we can do. It needs to be $575, right? And then what happens if you actually could buy it for $575 and you increase these rents to $2,700? What happens, guys? All of a sudden you're really winning. And what happens if you could actually refinance this one day to a 4.5? Dude, you're like freaking super winning, right? Look at your returns on your investments here, right? Look at this. You'd be cash flowing after less than 2 years, less than a year and a half with FHA. You'd be cash flowing using a 10% on day one. If you bought this FHA, I mean, you got to live on one side, right? But if you were after a year to like just move out and then rent it out, you'd probably be breaking even, and that's saving for 15% in for repairs and vacancies. So overall, again, I say, guys, like, this property is probably like a D right now, the way it sits. But I think you can negotiate this and make this deal a B. So, but that being said, let's look at our next property, second to last. Go ahead, discard this one. Okay, this one is a 400, so this is a really accessible price. $450,000 duplex in Miami-Dade, currently paying $6,863 a year in taxes. Square feet, it's on the small side, 1,346 square feet. So what do you guys think the unit count is here, right? You should be already thinking how many units is going to be. They're saying that they're just collecting $1,850 a month in rent. That's kind of like, they probably have a vacancy there, and flood zone X, okay? Now let's see. Now these are almost like identical, so I'm curious about these. But let's look at the pictures first. Okay, so not a fan of this thing at all already. But you know, box ACs, the flat roof. Okay, it's got some hurricane protection there. That's nice. Okay, on the inside, it's not terrible, but it could be better. Okay, yeah. So this is like a C/D asset, I would say. And I bet you that the next listing is the property next door. Okay, so they said that the property is made of two 2-1s, each approximately 713 square feet. The units feature AC and shuttered windows with addition and concrete roofs. Lower the insurance premium to just about $1,000 per unit. Who cares about your expenses right now, bro? I'm trying to figure out how much you get in rent. Okay. Immediate property. Da, 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 da. Okay. All right. So it's 2-1s. We know that it's in Homestead, Florida. All right. So it's further away from actual like Miami. It's still Miami-Dade County. It's in unincorporated Miami-Dade County. And so they say it's a 2-1. Now I think that this is probably going to go towards you know, the lesser of the price ranges here, right? 713 square feet each, right? So you're probably getting, yeah, close to $1,500. I think that what he actually means here with 1,850 is per unit. I don't see it being totally crazy being able to say he's collecting 1,850 per unit. So let's leave that there, give him the benefit of the doubt. If you're able to collect 1,850 per unit, that means that you're making $3,700 a whole every single month. And at that point, this deal could make sense, guys. Well, actually, let me go back. It's 6.37% interest rate. Yeah, this deal could make sense. It could make sense, but let's see. Again, on the 1% rule, it's a 0.82. For DSCR, you know, we're close to that borderline where that if we could prove these leases, the bank would be easily give us a mortgage on this. Okay, they would give us a loan to have this property. Now, that being said, the way that it currently stands is these rents, right? They're between medium and minimum and medium, and that could offer us a potential where if we could come in here and spruce this property up and make it look nicer, right? Could we get closer to the median? Could we get closer to $2,300? Because if we can, guys, if we could get closer to $2,300, which is the median for Miami-Dade County, now we're at $4,600 a month in rent. And what should that tell you guys right off the bat if the purchase price is $450? We're above the 1% rule, right? We're right at the 1% rule, which is ideal. More than likely, this deal is going to be awesome. But we would need to verify that we could get at least median rents for this. And so with that being said, look what the returns look like if we could actually get this, okay? They look pretty awesome. You cash flow on day one using either 10% or 25% down payments. Obviously you cash flow on day one. And if you were to move out after a year of owning this, which is, you know, an FHA requirement, you would also be cash flowing the day that you move out, okay? So again, it looks pretty freaking good here, guys. Look at the cash flow here, right? And even at that, even if like, let's say like you had an emergency, now you have to move out because of, you know, you bought this using FHA, you'd only really be paying about $3 a month. And that's with you putting money aside if you could get these rents again. So, but let's not assume, let's say that the maximum that you could actually get for these rents is $1,875. $1,875. At that point, you're only collecting, or did he say $1,850? Yeah, $1,850. Okay. If you could only get $1,850 and $1,850, this deal is not as good right? It is making a little bit better than 10%. It's making about 11%. So this deal, I think, is a C, but this deal could be a potential A deal. It could be a potential A deal, guys, if we could find a way to increase rent and if we could verify. So I would say definitely check this deal out. It has a great, great potential. And I think that for somebody starting out, something small like this could make all the sense in the world. I'm actually going to check this out. I'll let you guys know what I think about this in the future. So I'm going to actually save this property down here. I'm going to go to save cards. There we go. Okay, guys, so that said, we checked that property out. Let's check out the next property. This one they're selling it for $445,000. Taxes $6,969. It's the same square footage, 1852, flood zone X. Let's look at the pictures of the deal. Yeah, it's the same property, so I guess they listed it twice, or it's the property next door. So this is 611 Southwest 8th Street. And then the other one that we saw, it's 720 Southwest 6th Street. Okay. Okay, so and it's the same idea, guys. So I would say like, hey, definitely let's check this property out. And I will let you guys know tomorrow how this looks. So I'll give you guys an update tomorrow. This will be the first update that I give you guys. I usually don't come back and give you guys updates, but I think that these properties that we've seen, apart from all the other ones that we've seen, they have some really good potential. And so I'll be reporting back after I call the agents tomorrow. So that being said, guys, that's the show for today. Those are the properties that hit the market in South Florida. That's Miami-Dade again, Broward County, Palm Beaches. And these are all income producing properties, or at least they should be. And there are some here that could be. So that being said, guys, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you tomorrow.